Hello guys, my name is Rushman. Welcome to today's Bukkit plugin tutorial. We're on episode 5. We're doing muting players today. Where we left off. As you can see, player move. You're frozen. We got heal. We got frozen, freezing players. So this time we're gonna do muting players. So to start off with, we're gonna basically it's the same as frozen players because we're gonna need to store something that holds who's muted. And it's basically the same as freezing players, but the code is slightly different. The command code is basically the same. It's just the event code that's slightly different. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, we're going to need a new public array list. String called muted players, and that's equal to a new array list. That's a string, and yeah. Now for this, I'm not going to clear. I've decided now we're no longer going to clear them, because what if they're muted and then suddenly the owner accidentally reloads the server and then they're unmuted and then they're like, oh no, spamming. It's not good. So we've decided no longer are we going to clear it on reload. So let's get straight in. So first of all, we're going to say, hey, when the command is run, if the command label is equal to mute, then do what's in here, and we're going to check if the args.length is equal to 0. And if it is, we're going to say, hey, basically we're asking how many arguments are there? Have they put enough? And if they haven't put any, we're going to send them the message like last time, saying that the usage is /mute and in the player. I'm going to do else. If they have put some arguments, then continue. And if the arguments, and then we're gonna go switch through all of the arguments that exist. And we're gonna say, well, there's always going to be one argument, isn't there? So we're going to do case 1. If when you get to the number 1, switching between each one, deal with the code in here. And I'm going to say player p is going to initialize a player by getting the player that they've specified. So that's argument 0. They've put in a player's name, and we're going to, get that. And we're going to check if this player is actually online. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if p is equal to null, then we're going to send them a message saying in red, because that stands for like error, saying that player is not online. I can't spell. Otherwise, if the player is online, then we're going to do this code. Now, we're going to make this, again, a toggle. So we can, once they do it once, they're muted, and do it again, they're unmuted, if it's the same player. So first of all, we need to check whether muted players contains the player's name, so p.getName, which is the player's name. If it does, then we're going to say muted players, remove that player from it. We're going to remove that person from the list, and we're going to send them a message saying you have been unmuted. In a nice blue. Or is it, no, in a green. In a green, yeah. And we're going to say you have been unmuted. Otherwise, if they aren't in the list and we want to mute them, let's do muted players, add them to the muted players list. So add them to make them basically muted. But this code doesn't actually make them muted. That probably made no sense. But that code doesn't actually make them muted. That just basically says I'll just go over it now before I continue this next line. Basically, let's say adding it to this list here, and in an event when the player chats, we're going to check whether that player is part of the thing, and if it is, we're going to tell them that they're muted and they can't do it. So this is just adding it to a list that we can check. So if we had, let's say if we had a list here, and we had player 1 and player 2 and player 3 we could then check, so if list dot contains the player 1, but that's what we can basically do. We can basically check. This is just an example. This code doesn't exist, but that's basically the code we're running. We're saying we're adding them to a list, and then we can check whether we can then make sure when a player chats that they're not in that list, and if they are on that list, then we can stop them from talking. So we're gonna put you have been muted by, and then this is what I like to do on most commands. Tell them who they've been muted by. So have they been muted by the console? Have they been muted by the admin? Who have they been muted by? And yeah, that's basically all the code for the command. And next we need to have an event. So this is the on player chat event. So event handler public void on player chat, and it's the player chat event E. So we're saying yeah, and then we need to import that, so Control-Shift-O, auto import. So next we need to check. So we're going to need to check if muted players contains the player. So we need to say, right, when a player talks, see if we're going to say if the specific player that's talking is in the muted players. So if they're meant to be muted, then we're going to say e.set cancelled. We're going to stop them. That basically stops them. You know when we did freezing, I said we could do it e.set cancelled, but we didn't because it looked really bad. That doesn't happen in this. We can just keep it the same. We could just say cancelled, and we're going to send them a player, send them a message, send them a player. We're not going to suddenly send them a player. No, we're going to send them a message in green again. Yeah. Saying you are muted. Otherwise, do nothing. So that's basically all the code we now do. Now we need to change the plugin.yml file, and that's as simple as adding a new command. So mute description, mute players. Oh, there we go. And then we just come back in here, refresh, and then I can export it. So I'm just going to export this, guys, and then I will be back with the server running, Minecraft running, and yeah. So, okay, guys, I'm on the server right now, and let's say I want to, I haven't got another player. I like to just test this on my own. I might get another player to come on and test them with me sometimes. But, yeah. So, in the console here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say mute Rushmead. Said I might have forgotten to reload the server and then do mute Rushmead. Just me being an idiot. Anyway, it says you have been muted by console. I can still walk. I can do all of the stuff I can do except for saying hi. I can't chat at all. You are muted. But the one thing I can do, which is a bit of a disappointment, is I can do commands. So I could unmute myself technically. And but to be honest, let's say I was an op and I can unmute myself. So let's de-op myself. Oh, rushing man. Let's say I de-op myself, right? And then oops, that's the code. And then I up myself, so and then I mute myself, so mute Rushmead, IP muted. And I go, hello. I can't. I've been muted, so I can't do anything. So then I do slash mute Rushmead. I've muted myself. So what we need to do is a little tweak of code. So if we go back in here, back in the code, we need to check whether the player is an op first. We need to check whether they have the permissions to do said command. So first of all, just before anything else, we need to check whether sender has permission. And all we're going to do is just put this in a nice big thing there. And we're going to say if they have, let's see, YouTube tutorial mute. So if they have the permission that, they can obviously use it. And then otherwise, send them a message saying you cannot use this command. And that's it, basically. So what we're saying is, if they have the permission, youtube.tutorial.mute, they can use all this. Sure, they can use it. Otherwise, no. And we're going to return false. And that is all. So again, export it. And then go back into the cups. That new Rushmead. That should have unmuted me. No, I've been muted again, so I've been muted. Hi, I can't talk. If I try to do /mute Rushmead again, I can't use this command. As you see, you cannot use this command because I haven't got permissions to. Now, if I opt myself, so opt Rushmead, and I try to if I try to unmute myself, I can do this perfectly fine. So this is quite useful if you're planning to make a this plugin for your own server, and you can you want to be able to mute players, and you don't want them to be able to unmute people or mute themselves or unmute themselves. If you don't want them to be able to do that, that's pretty simple. And yeah, but that's it for today's tutorial, guys. I'll see you somewhere. Goodbye, guys. Hi-ho.